Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It is so good to be back. It is so good to see everybody. What is up? What is up? I am slightly out of breath. I literally just finished working out, so sorry about that. Drinking some protein. So give me just a second. I will be good to go. I will stop being out of breath for you. But welcome to another episode of the live chat. So what can we talk about today? Well, clearly, obviously, the biggest breaking news that just happened a few hours ago, Sony has announced finally, after such a long wait, we are finally getting a PlayStation 5 games showcase. And I think the most important thing to note about this, they have not tempered expectations. They have not said, oh, this isn't going to be, too crazy like they've been doing for the state of plays, for example. They've been before each state of play kind of tempering expectations, letting you know, there might be some cool stuff here, but don't expect God of War. Don't expect, crazy big things. They've done none of that for this, right? This is a true PlayStation 5 showcase. So we can talk about hype. We can talk about predictions. What do we think Sony's going to show? What do they need to show? Etc., etc. Of course, also this morning, we had quite a bit of drama online surrounding Horizon Forbidden West and its lack of an upgrade path, right? From PS4 to PS5 in terms of like a free upgrade, right? There's no free upgrade path for this, and that is generating some major controversy, right? We've seen some games, in fact, many games offer that free upgrade path, but Sony themselves, have not necessarily been doing that, and Horizon is going to follow in those footsteps, right? There was a little bit. Spider-Man had a free upgrade path, if I remember correctly. But for example, Ghost of Tsushima, right? You had to pay for that upgrade. And Horizon Forbidden West is also not going to have a free upgrade path to go to PS5. And that is generating some major drama, especially because, as we know, Microsoft and Xbox have been doing a stellar job in regards to that. So we can talk about that. What does it mean, etc., etc., and any video game industry news you want to talk about, right? So for anyone, if this is your first time ever joining my live chat, basically the way this works, this is a stream, this is a show that's 100% driven by you, your comments, your questions. I get to as many questions as I possibly can. There's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method. You just type a question, it drops into chat, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. However, if you want to 100% guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that is going to be the super chat option. You just type in a donation with a super chat, and of course, super chats are going to get priority because that's what you pay for. However, I want to be very clear. Don't feel obligated. Don't feel pressured to do super chats. That's just a way to help support me and the channel. I do also get to tons of free questions per chat. All right, everyone. I think that is going to mostly do it for the housekeeping notes, the frontline topics. Another thing to note right off the top, in case anybody wants to ask about it, Xbox is showing some major momentum in Japan. For anyone that's been missing that, keep in mind, Xbox Series X and S are not performing at the levels of PlayStation 5. They're not performing at the levels of Switch. I don't think anyone ever would expect that, right? Xbox clearly is going to always be a much more niche product in Japan, than those other platforms. However, by Xbox standards, right? Just looking at it in a vacuum, just comparing Xbox to, for example, the Xbox One. Xbox Series X and S has had a tremendous really last few months, and the past 2 weeks in particular have both been over 5,000 units in a week. That is spectacular for them. Keep in mind, Xbox One really just like a year ago was lucky to sell, it was selling like around 100 units a week. So to go from like 100 to 5,000 plus per week, I mean, we're talking an exponential increase, right? Now, again, clearly it's still way below PlayStation, way below Switch, and it always will be. But that is very exciting news for Microsoft. It seems they will have some presence in Japan, right? It's going to remain small. It's going to remain niche there, but it's clearly going to do much better than the Xbox One. So that's another thing worth noting off the top. If any of y'all want to ask about it, feel free to drop your questions. I'm going to go ahead and start rocking. We got a whole bunch of questions already into chat, so thank you so much. I'm going to be gross really quick and drink this last chug of protein, and then we're good to go, okay? Just let me drink this really quick. I just got done working out. All right, we're good to go. Sorry, that was gross. I literally finished like 2 minutes before we went live. Okay. All right, let's hit some super chats. We got some super chats already off the top. We got Timmer72299 with a 2 right off the bat saying the Game Awards predictions. Well, as we know, Halo is now out of the running, right? It can't get nominated. It's too late. Right now, I tweeted this. This is kind of the year of the platformer in a lot of ways, right? If you look at OpenCritic, which isn't the same as Metacritic, right? Metacritic's different. But if you look at OpenCritic, 4 of the top 6 reviewed games so far this year are platformers, right? It was Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. It was Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and then, of course, It Takes Two. So, the platformers this year are really delivering. I really do think Psychonauts 2 is going to get a Game of the Year nomination. Media seems to love it. A lot of the community seems to love it. I've started this game. I think it's fantastic, honestly. I really think that there's a very good chance Psychonauts 2 gets nominated. I think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart's going to get nominated. We're talking Game of the Year. I think Returnal's going to get a Game of the Year nomination. And then after that, we have some wild cards, right? Metroid Dread, I think, has a possibility. It depends on how good it is or not. It depends on some of these fourth quarter games, right? Maybe some of them are going to surprise and knock a few of these that we're talking about right now out of the list. That's always a possibility, but I will say, despite how many games I'm excited for coming up in fourth quarter, there's not many that I look at and think, wow, this is probably a Game of the Year contender, right? Call of Duty seems highly doubtful to me. Battlefield 2042, again, also seems highly doubtful. Those games I have no doubt will probably get nominated for different categories, right? Best shooter, best multiplayer. It's just hard for me to envision those getting Game of the Year nominations. Something like Tales of Arise, I think, is going to be really good and probably get nominated for Best RPG. But again, I can't see it as Game of the Year. Life is Strange, True Colors. I could see that getting some nominations for like story or voice acting. But again, Game of the Year seems doubtful, right? We don't have a ton of games right up, coming up quick that feel like they're going to get that Game of the Year nominee. So Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank, Returnal. I could see something like Monster Hunter Rise. I could see something like Metroid Dread. It Takes Two I could see in there. There's definitely some. And that is just a few off the top of my head. Thank you for that super chat, Timmer. Kieran Buckley with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Kieran. Hi, Benji. What's your thoughts on Psychonauts 2? And do you think you could get a nod for Game of the Year? Yes, Kieran. So I'm still pretty early in Psychonauts 2. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't played the game because I highly recommend this game. It is fantastic. I'm probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, something like that into it. And I think it's phenomenal. Now, keep in mind, I never played the original Psychonauts. So for me, this is somebody with fresh eyes to the franchise. So I'm not even like heavily influenced in terms of like, oh, I have so much nostalgia for Psychonauts, right? It's not one of those games I was automatically going to love. And I think it's fantastic. I think it's amazing. Even so far, and what I've heard from a lot of people is it actually gets better the deeper you get into it. So if that's true, wow, I'm very impressed. Unless this game takes a massive nosedive in quality, which again, from what I'm hearing, is actually the opposite. I hear it gets better as you get later into the game. This will definitely make my top 10 games of the year. Yeah, for sure. And do I think it'll actually get a nomination? I think it has a strong chance, right? I won't say it's a lock because we still have some big games on the horizon that we need to see how they review. but I think it has a very good shot. Yes, I would say Kyrian, it has a very good shot. Highly recommend it to anybody. This is a multi-platform game. Double Fine is a first-party Xbox studio, but if you have a PlayStation, you can still play this game because they developed this game, before Xbox acquired them. I highly recommend it, whether you're on PlayStation. Super chat. Thoughts of new rumor of a new Japan Sony studio. I think that this could have some truth to it. There are reports out there. I think that this main report is coming from somebody. There's going to be a few internet issues during the stream, by the way. For anyone, if this is your first time in my chat, I haven't been able to figure out what it is. I just saw I had a disconnect. I've tried everything and I can't figure it out. So I will warn you, every once in a while, this stream might stop for just a second to buffer or something. Usually if you just refresh it, it'll be back. But I'm on a hardwired connection. I'm still having these issues. I'm trying to get my internet provider in so I can figure out what's going on because I'm running a wired connection. But I do want to warn you, the stream could go down periodically. It won't be for long. It'll be like a split second. If you refresh, it'll come back. But anyways, DangerMan1337 saying, thoughts of a new rumor of a new Japan Sony studio. Yeah, so like I was saying, this rumor comes from someone that apparently leaked out the Housemarque acquisition before it was official. And I think they actually provided evidence of this, like a video footage or something. I would not be surprised, Danger Man. I don't have any inside info for you. I can't tell you if this is legit or not, but it wouldn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form. We've talked about it on this chat for, I've been on YouTube for a while now. We've been talking about for the last really couple years, right? That acquisitions, exclusive content, all this stuff is just becoming actually more important than it ever even was, right? Exclusives have always been an important part of the industry, but they're actually becoming even more important. And the reason for that isn't because it used to be really this industry was built around selling consoles, right? And of course, selling consoles is still very important, but it used to be really you lived and died purely by install base. But nowadays we have things like subscriptions, right? We have things like people buying digital in your marketplace, which gets you even more money than buying physical games, right? So of course, a bigger install base is going to mean more games sold on your console, which of course is a similar thing that we had in the past. But however, getting those people in your ecosystem is actually even more important than it ever was because, like I said, games used to primarily sell physical and you get a smaller cut of the pie. Now that so many games are selling digital, you want them in your ecosystem because you're getting a bigger chunk, than ever, especially on those first-party exclusives, right? If you're Sony or Microsoft and you have that first-party game and you're selling it digitally on your own storefront, you're getting a massive chunk of revenue back, right, for that investment. So exclusives are more important than they've ever been, whether that's getting people to subscribe to Game Pass, whether that's getting people to buy digital games on your platform, etc., etc. So the idea that Sony is trying to build more studios, get more games coming out, get, a more heavy release slate, that doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I would absolutely expect that. I would expect that from Microsoft as well. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see, Danger Man. I have no inside info, but a Japan studio specifically for Sony, I think it's a great idea. And I hope that is true. I do hope that's true. Frostbite Slash with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Frostbite. Predictions for PS5 showcase next week. Then one wild expectation that you would love to see. Okay, so my realistic expectations. I think we're going to get a new Horizon trailer, right? We haven't seen anything on Horizon since, was that May that they did that big trailer? And, like I talked about in the last chat, even though I think it was the last chat or it was the one before that, we did see quite a bit of Horizon, but there's still a lot actually that we don't know about Forbidden West. Like, for example, how are dialogue systems and like the RPG elements expanded? The last showcase we had on Horizon, it was really focused on showing you like that gameplay, right? What's new with the gameplay, what's new with the combat, like the glider, showing you kind of the world. But there's still a ton of elements about this game we don't know. How much deeper are the RPG mechanics on this game? How much more complex is the dialogue system? Things like that. So there's still a lot they can show. And now that we have a release date, I think it's a good time to have another nice beefy trailer, right? It doesn't need to be a blowout showcase like the State of Play was, but a nice, 3-5 minute trailer to give you another new look at the game. I think that's very smart, and I expect it. I think you'll see new footage of Horizon. I think we're finally going to see God of War, right? It makes perfect sense. Keep in mind, of course, that game was delayed, but it was originally slated for 2021. So of all of those first-party games that could be in the works at Sony, we know God of War is going to be further along than a lot of those, considering it was originally supposed to be this year. So definitely, I think we will finally see that. I don't know that it'll be like a massive gameplay blowout. I would love to see that, but at the very least, you're going to get some kind of trailer and know what God of War is. I think it's like a 100% lock. I think there's no chance they don't show God of War here. So that's realistic. And I'll be honest, I think this is realistic too. I think you're going to see Factions too. I think you're going to see the new multiplayer game from Naughty Dog that's set in the Last of Us universe. I think so, because I think that game's launching next year. So I think you're probably going to see Factions too. And, that kind of stuff. In terms of like a wild prediction, this is third party, but you might see Dragon's Dogma 2. We know Dragon's Dogma 2 is in the works. We know that is going to be a big game, right? I mean, it's going to be a big deal. Maybe you see Dragon's Dogma 2. Maybe there's a chance you see that. In terms of first party, a surprise? Who's the team that could be closest with a surprise? Sony's not adverse to showing something super far off, at least in a very teaser way. I would say my, kind of wild prediction, maybe you see a teaser, not nothing massive, but maybe you see a teaser for Spider-Man 2. I don't think that's impossible, because keep in mind right now Insomniac have no announced games. Ratchet & Clank just came out, as we know, but Insomniac's the kind of studio, they're always juggling multiple projects, right? Insomniac never is working, at least in recent years, on just one game. There's always a couple games in the running there, and you could get a teaser. Keep in mind, a teaser for Spider-Man 2. I would not expect, and this is my wild prediction, this isn't my realistic one, but I don't think it's impossible. They give you just a really brief 60-second, kind of like what they did with God of War Ragnarok, where they splashed you that logo. Wouldn't shock me if you saw a Spider-Man 2 tiny tease for 2023, but I don't know that they'd want to tease it that early. But keep in mind, this is Sony, who announced games like The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, etc. years in advance, right? This isn't a company that's scared to show a game that's 2 years away. So it's possible. Not my realistic one, but possible. All right. Thank you for a good turnout today, everyone. Thank you so much. Plastic Hearts Podcast with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts. Great to see you always in chat. Benji boy, I'm coming hot with the MMA boxing question no one wants to hear. Well, that's okay, because I love MMA. What do you think of the Woodley Paul fight? Is Paul legit now? I'll make this short for people that don't care about MMA and boxing. If you're just here for video games, don't worry. But combat sports are my second favorite thing. It's video games and combat sports. So Plastic Hearts, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like Woodley, that was his fight to lose, and he threw it away. Honestly, during that fight, he rocked Jake hard in the fourth. Woodley was just too cautious, which is the same problem Woodley had in the end of his UFC career, right? He was on a 4-fight losing skid in the UFC. Only one of those fights he showed any aggression. I mean, the 3 before his final fight versus Vicente Luque, the 3 fights before that, which were, he lost to Usman, he lost to Gilbert Burns, he lost to Colby Covington. Those 3 fights, I mean, he showed zero killer instinct. He showed zero drive. He just kind of was there. And unfortunately, I feel like that's mostly what we saw in this fight again. Now, he was aggressive versus Vicente Luque, but then as we know, he got rocked and submitted. This fight was the same deal. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like he could have won the fight, right? After watching that fight, I don't feel like it was a fight that told us, Jake Paul is like this amazing boxer, right? He's still very rudimentary. I will say, though, to give Jake credit, the one question we always had for Jake Paul is, does this guy have a chin, and is he actually a fighter, right? Is it the minute he faces adversity, he's going to wilt and fold? Whether you like Jake Paul, whether you hate Jake Paul, he got caught with a clean shot in that 4th round. He got rocked, and the dude came back out, right? And he fought for 8 rounds. So, again, you can absolutely hate Jake Paul. I'm not a huge Jake Paul fan, but what I will say, the kid's tough, right? Like, he's a legit tough dude. Like, not many people are going to go in there, get punched by a former UFC champion, rocked, and come out for the next round and still fight multiple more rounds and win the fight. So I will give props to Jake for that. However, I do think Woodley could have won that fight if he was more aggressive. Jake needs to not fight somebody super, like, he can't fight a super legit boxer yet because he will get tuned up. Okay, his boxing was, for a celebrity fighter, he's a good boxer. But by true pro boxing terms, he still has a long way to go. So, that's kind of my thoughts on the fight. All right, Benji here with a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, Benji. Hi, Benji. Is Sony under pressure to deliver games as a service games as it's very lucrative? Yes, you're going to see some from Sony. Microsoft is successful with Sea of Thieves, and Halo will be huge. Ubi, Activision, Blizzard, EA, etc. are making huge cash with games as a service. First of all, Benji, thank you for that super chat. Thanks for always being in the chat. Thank you for being so supportive. So here's the question, right? Is Sony going to make more games as a service and multiplayer games? Yes. In fact, 100% yes. Now, does this mean, I want to be really clear here, because I think for, hardcore Sony fans that really have built their current legacy on those big giant AAA narrative, story-driven games, I don't think any of that's going away. So I wouldn't panic whenever you hear me say, yeah, you're going to see more games as a service and more multiplayer. I would not worry about that. I wouldn't say, oh my goodness, does that mean Sony is going to reduce their output of these single-player games? I don't think so. I think Sony knows what made them successful. I think they know what their fan base loves. But I also do think that Sony's aware that, yeah, there is a big market out there that plays multiplayer games. And you have seen, this isn't just a theory for mine. You have seen Jim Ryan and you have seen Herman Hulst flat out come out and say they will make more multiplayer projects. That is their own words. That's not just me. That is flat out Sony executives telling you, yes, there's going to be more of a multiplayer element to Sony in the future. But to me, I think it's going to be additional, right? I don't think Sony is going to suddenly pivot and be like, nope, we're going to make half as many story-driven games as we did before, and now we're all in on multiplayer. Keep in mind, a lot of Sony's internal teams have been staffing up significantly. If you just look at their hiring, they've been hiring tons of people at studios like Santa Monica, Guerrilla, et cetera, et cetera. Naughty Dog, I could go down the list. Insomniac, right? They're all studios are bulking. Part of that, I do think, is to take on an additional load of multiplayer. I think you'll see most of Sony's first-party studios this gen put out some kind of multiplayer, right? Does that mean they're going to put out multiplayer dedicated games, every single one of them? No. But look, for example, like what Sucker Punch did with Ghost of Tsushima, right? You had that big, beefy single-player game, and then they added on that Legends mode to it. I think you'll see stuff like that, right? Where they're going to have some multiplayer stuff added into those single-player games that maybe you wouldn't traditionally expect to have it. And then you're going to see some big, giant, full-on multiplayer games like what Factions 2 is going to be. So, yes, you will absolutely see Sony release more multiplayer. You'll see them do more games as a service. But don't worry, that doesn't mean they're going to lose their identity about what they've built their company on. So you're still going to see plenty of single-player narrative games from them as well. Awesome. Thank you for that super chat. I think super chats are cleared for now. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Tons of free questions to start diving into. Thank you for a great turnout today. Elias Stapleton. Andy from VGC said a super announcement is going to be announced according to his source. What do you think? Makes sense to me, Elias. Like I said right off the top of the stream, I think this is going to be big. This is going to be a big show. Keep in mind, Sony hasn't had a true showcase since September of last year. It's been a full year since we've had a full-on PlayStation showcase. Now, we've had states of plays since then of various sizes, right? We've had some that are kind of smaller, focused on indies. We've had some big ones that are, like the one that was dedicated to Horizon. But we haven't had that big, giant, beefy, here is PlayStation showcase. It was September of last year. It's a full year. So they've gone a long time without talking. As we've mentioned on the stream, a lot of those Sony studios don't have announced games, right? We might even know what some of them are working on. For example, Naughty Dog. Like, we know what's in the works at Naughty Dog through leaks, but they haven't officially announced any of those games. So there's a lot that Sony needs to show. So Elias, yeah, I expect some pretty freaking big stuff here. Now, what the super announcement's going to be, that to me says it's something unexpected or something like, maybe a game that you think is coming but hasn't been like heavily rumored. So what that could be, I mean, who knows? I would think that that's something actually third party, because I think most of the Sony studios would be a super announcement, but we would kind of expect, right? For example, like if we see God of War, that's a super announcement, but I think most of us think God of War is going to be there. Spider-Man, even if it's a tease, that's a massive announcement, right? But would any of us be shocked? Like, I don't think any of us would be like, I cannot believe they announced Spider-Man 2, right? Like, we know whether it gets announced here or whether it gets announced in 6 months or a year, like we all know Spider-Man 2 is coming. So super announcement to me says something, it's like, wow, that is shocking. Never saw that coming. So who knows? I hate to give like kind of a I don't know answer, but that could be anything, Elias. That could be anything. My hunch, though, is to use words like that, it must be something unexpected. And I do expect this showcase to be huge. Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be a really big show. Really big. We had 2 super chats just drop. Real Radic. Ooh, Gravy Biscuits is saying SOCOM. That would be a big one. That would be a big one and unexpected, right? I think a lot of people are asking for SOCOM, but there's no current rumor of a SOCOM game in development, or at least not from like a super trustworthy source. So Gravy Biscuits, I just caught that comment. SOCOM would be one, yeah. That would be one that I would categorize as that. Yep. If all of a sudden they came out and said SOCOM's back, that'd be a big announcement. That'd be very big. All right, Real Radic with a 2 super chat here. PS All-Stars reboot next week. Get hyped. Oh, dude, Real Radic, I would love it. I would love PS All-Stars to come back. Now, I will say I would hope that the combat would be way different than the last PS All-Stars. I didn't think that game was actually, like, super fun to play. But here's the thing. Sony has a ton of characters that could work great in a Smash Bros. Type game, right? And yes, the last one didn't do that great. But I think if it had a better development cycle, maybe if the game looked a little more impressive to people, maybe if the combat clicked more. I mean, they have more characters now than they did back when PS All-Stars came out. So they could make a beefy roster, especially if you incorporate third party. I'd love to see it. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm going to say no, Real Radic. But I love your prediction. I love the optimism, and I hope it happens. I'm rooting for it, okay? I'd love to see another PS All-Stars, but I don't know. That seems like a long shot, but I'm hopeful. Big Fresh 37 with the 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Big Fresh 37. What do you make of the Twisted Metal in 2023 stuff and them not approaching David Jaffe and all his controversy for it? Ooh, yeah, this is interesting. I'll be honest. Twisted Metal is not one of the IPs that I would have expected to make a big comeback. I don't think the last one was that big of a success. That was on PS3, right? Wasn't it a PS3 game? I don't recall that game like lighting up the charts, being a massive sales success. So on one hand, it's super surprising to me that they're going to put a big investment into another Twisted Metal game. On the other hand, however, we do know that they were trying, and we haven't really had much updates on it, but we know they were trying to turn Twisted Metal into a show. And maybe that's, further along now. And so on that hand, if they want to kind of couple it, maybe the projection is the Twisted Metal show will be in 2023. And they think that they can get some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Synergy between the two. If the show's a big hit, get people to go out and buy the game. That to me would kind of make sense. But yeah. And in terms of regards to David Jaffe, I think it's a bummer. He's not with PlayStation anymore. He's not really making games right now. So on one hand, I can kind of see why, he wouldn't get like a big focus in terms of like make him the lead of the game or anything. But I think it would have been nice to, consult him for the game. Maybe reach out to David, ask, some of his ideas and, have him maybe consult on the game, right? He doesn't have a studio right now in terms of like a big studio. He doesn't have, that kind of stuff. So it's not unheard of to continue a series without the original creators there, right? Microsoft is continuing to make Gears of War, even though, Cliffy B and now Rod Ferguson aren't there, right? Who are kind of like the creators in a lot of ways of Gears of War. So it's not like unheard of, just because you created a franchise, just look at God of War, right? David's not helping out with that. Cory Barlog's been running that. So, it's not an unheard of thing. I don't think, for example, it's like, wow, Sony's the bad guy because they didn't bring David Jaffe in to make this game. But I do think it would have been nice. I think it would have been respectful, to at least reach out to him, let him know, hey, do you got any ideas? Anything you want to like share with the team, maybe consult, that kind of thing. I think that would have been cool. But, that's my thoughts. I am surprised it's coming back, though. That if you would have given me a bunch of IPs that Sony owns, that wouldn't have been at the top of the list for me on games coming back. So I'm interested, though. Frostbite Slash with another 5 super chat. I think it is that. I think that's your second one, Frostbite. Thank you so much. I feel like I asked you this every chat, but will we finally get that Bluepoint acquisition with a teaser for their next project at the event? Here's what I'll say, Frostbite. Here's what I'll say. If you don't get a Bluepoint announcement at this showcase, that acquisition did not happen. Okay? This is the time. If that acquisition really was like happening and it was in the middle of being done back whenever that thing was accidentally posted, this is the time. Like, you announce it here. If it's not announced, right? If we go this whole showcase, there's no Bluepoint announcement, they did not acquire them. Does that mean they won't acquire them in the future? No, I'm not saying like it means they're never going to buy Bluepoint. What I mean is it means back then, whenever they originally posted that, it was truly some sort of weird accident, right? If there's no announcement here, they have not been acquired. It's just, that is the way it is. I see no other reason why you would leave that still unannounced, especially because Bluepoint has in their bio that they're an independent studio. So if they're acquired, this is the announcement. Again, if they don't announce it here, that doesn't mean Sony can't acquire Bluepoint next year. I'm not saying it's completely out of the running. I just mean it hasn't already happened. So this is the time, Frostbite. This is the time. Now, could they tease their next project? Possible. We're coming up on almost a year since Demon's Souls came out, right? We're in September. We're only a few months away from a year since Demon's Souls. We don't know if they were already doing pre-production work on something else, which I suspect will be another remake. And we know that Bluepoint works efficiently, that they work fast. So not impossible. I don't rank it as like my top 5 most expected things at the show, but I also don't think it's impossible. They could definitely tease it, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, Sony's the kind of company that is not afraid to tease a game way in advance. They've done this many, many, many times. You could go down the list. Sony has announced numerous games 2+ years before they came out. So definitely not impossible. I don't think it's like my most expected thing to happen, but it could be there. It could be there, yeah. And in terms of the acquisition, it's now or they didn't acquire them. All right, Bones here. What are your thoughts on the Horizon Forbidden West PS4 to PS5 upgrade situation? Yeah, let's talk about this, right? Tons of controversy online around this. I have a couple thoughts. First of all, I'm just going to flat out say it. It's not good. It's not good, I don't think, that you don't offer that upgrade path. And I think it's particularly a bad call right now while there's mass shortages, right? Keep in mind, there are people that want PlayStation 5s, right? They want the console. They have the money. They want to buy that PS5, but they literally can't. So in a way, I feel like you're somewhat punishing those people that just flat out can't get a PS5, but still want to play Horizon Day 1, and are going, you know, some of them may be forced to buy it on PS4, and then maybe they are able to get a PS5 a few months afterwards. It would be really nice for them to be able to have that free upgrade, you know, to the next version of the game. I think even if you're a Sony fan, kind of hard to super defend them on this, right? I just think it's a pro-consumer move to allow that free upgrade path. It's literally the same game, dude. I mean, some stuff is going to be upgraded. Visuals are going to be... It's the same game, okay? It's the same. So I think it's very pro-consumer to do that, to allow people to upgrade. And like I said, particularly in this environment where there are mass console shortages and people just can't get systems. I mean, I personally know somebody that has been trying since launch day to get a PS5 and has still been unable to because they won't pay a scalper, right? They themselves are not going to go out and give that kind of money to somebody who's upcharging it. They're just trying to get a true PS5, and they can't get one. They sell out, you know, somewhat instantly. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of them not having this free upgrade. I wouldn't yell at Gorilla over this. I can promise you it has nothing to do with Gorilla. Gorilla does not make these decisions. This comes from Sony themselves. However, I think Sony's looking at it, and the reality is that the majority of the copies of Forbidden West are likely to be sold on PS5 anyways. We've seen cross-gen games really ever since launch selling more on PS5, so Sony probably is also assuming majority of these units are going to be sold on PS5. Whatever, you know, I'm not going to defend it, though. I'm not going to defend it. And if some PlayStation fans get mad at me over it, it is what it is. But I will not defend that. I'm not going to defend it. Especially from a first party. I don't love when third parties do this, but particularly first party. I mean, you own the console. You own the platform. I can understand upcharging when it's new content. You are literally... For example, I don't think it's crazy that Sony charged for Spider-Man Remastered. They did quite a few changes on that. They changed character models, they added ray tracing, like it was a true remaster. Again, would I be more happy if that was a free thing? Yeah, but it was like a true remaster. This is literally the same game coming out on the same day, right? It's literally the same day, PS4, PS5. I'm not going to defend it. You won't hear me defend that. Especially, wasn't this announced to be a free upgrade? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I am fairly certain Sony themselves announced in a blog post in the past it would be a free upgrade. So if that's true, I mean, you literally said it. And I'm fairly confident that that's accurate. So someone can correct me, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure in a blog post a while back. Now, granted, this was a while ago before the game was delayed, but I am pretty sure Sony themselves stated the upgrade would be free. Javier Macias Leon. Hi, Benji. I hope you're doing great. About the PS event, what game are you looking for the most? Ooh, what am I most excited about? Also, new game announcements do you think we can expect? I hope you can get the day off work. Yeah, I do work. I don't think I'm going to be able to get the day off, so I apologize. Don't expect really a live reaction from me in terms of like here on the YouTube channel. I would love to watch it with you guys. I'm going to try to find a way to get off. I think it's unlikely. It's such short notice. I only have a week and I work retail, you know, and I'm entry-level retail. So it's a little harder for me, right? I'm not somebody up in high management who has vacation days I can burn and figure this stuff out. Like, y'all, I work the same job that a teenager in high school works. So it's hard for me to get the day off on this short of notice, literally a week. So I'm going to try, Javier, but it's very unlikely. And in terms of what am I most excited to see? God of War. It's got to be God of War. Got to be God of War for me. I think it's going to be there, and I am amped out of my mind to see that game. So it's God of War. It's God of War for me. And I'd love to see a new IP, right? God of War and a new IP would be what I'd most anticipate. Benji saying, Benji, do you think Sony needs to come up with a smart delivery equivalent at some point on PS5? Benji, I think the time to do that would have been at launch. I think it's too late. I think the cross-gen period's already almost over. I really do. I mean, I really think the cross-gen period is already coming to an end. You know, you're going to see it still some in 2022. 2023, it's over. There is no cross-gen. I'm just going to flat out tell you that. You know, as somebody that does talk to devs and stuff, not like every single day I'm in the weeds, you know, finding out everything, but I'm telling you, by 2023, the cross-gen period's over. Like, most games are current gen only. 2022, yes, there will still be some cross-gen, but you're also going to start seeing next-gen only games or current-gen only games as soon as next year. So, you know, the time to do that would have been throughout that first year and a half, and they didn't do it. So it would have been nice to have had that, but the cross-gen period's already almost over. Like, it's already almost done. You know, at most, there's like a year left. Would it be pro-consumer to do that? It would be, but I think Sony at this point, since they've already ridden out almost a full year of no smart delivery, they'll just continue to ride it out and not do it, you know? Because like I said, it's not like this is going to be a thing throughout the rest of the generation. Like, oh, we still have years of cross-gen games ahead of us. I'm telling you, that's not true. It's not. You have like a year, and not even all those games in over the next year are cross-gen. But definitely some are. Silence PP7. CD Projekt Red said today they may not get their next-gen updates for Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3 out this year. Yeah. Oh, CD Projekt. What should they prioritize, and what's your prediction for how the rest of 2021 and 2022 will look for them? You know, CD Projekt's one of those companies that's truly hard for me to talk about because I used to be such a fan. I mean, a massive fan. You know, anyone that knew me from like my forum days, back whenever I used to post on forums, I always rocked a Geralt avatar because I loved The Witcher ever since The Witcher 2, right? Like, I played that game right when it came out, launch. I played Witcher 2, absolutely adored it. Played Witcher 3, absolutely adored it. I was like hyped out of my mind for Cyberpunk 2077. But that is a studio, and I hate to say it, they went off the rails, right? And I don't think they're doomed. I truly believe CD Projekt can turn things around. But A, that's going to take time. People aren't going to just... CD Projekt used to have one of those things that people blindly trusted them, right? They had earned that reputation through like free DLCs, games people liked. They were super communicative, like... People just like thought of CD Projekt Red as like the, you know, one of the good guys in the industry, right? They were super pro-consumer, people felt like, and everything. And they tarnished that reputation heavily with Cyberpunk. There's just no way around it. There's literally no other way to phrase it than that. And this is coming from someone that loved that company. So I do think they can turn around. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take proof, right? It's going to take proof. And I think... in regards to Cyberpunk specifically, I think that ship has sailed, dude. Like, I think it's done. And I don't mean that, doesn't mean that Cyberpunk can't sell more units. I don't think that, you know, a nice patch for the new consoles is going to, you know, if it's good, make people happy and things like that. But I think the Cyberpunk story has already been told, at least for this game. I truly believe that. I know they're still investing a ton. I know that they're still believing in it. Yo, the game fell off a cliff. That's just the reality of it. And again, I'm not saying it can't sell more units, but what I mean, the way CD Projekt Red is going to redeem themselves, quote, quote, the way they're going to get momentum back is going to be through a new game. It's going to be a new game coming out. That new game writing a new story. That new game being amazing. That new game hitting day one, being excellent right out of the gate. That's how they redeem themselves. It's not through Cyberpunk. So... they need to take their time with this next game. I suspect it's going to be a new Witcher game. It needs to be extremely polished day one, extremely high quality, all of the above, right? Again, Cyberpunk can still sell. It was in the top 10 last week on Steam because it was discounted. The Witcher is still going to sell. I'm strictly talking about the narrative around CD Projekt Red. That does not change until they get a new game out and that new game's outstanding. Because even if Cyberpunk recovers, even if it's super good, eventually it's super polished on consoles, it plays good. Even if all that happens, you will still constantly see people say, but what about that next game? You know, we don't know. Look at how Cyberpunk launched. How's that next game going to launch? That next game has to be a home run. So... I don't think we see a new game from them until 2023 at the earliest. at the earliest. I'm talking late 2023, and I don't even think then. It might even be 2024. So yeah, they're gonna have to just kind of ride some things out. They're gonna have to eventually get those patches out. Hope legs continue for The Witcher, and hope they continue for Cyberpunk. I do think Cyberpunk can get a bit of a boost when that next gen patch hits, but in terms of their true how people feel about them, that's gonna all come down to the next game. It's what it's gonna be about. Brandon, hey Benji, do you think Sony would ever make their own launcher on PC? Oh, that's a great question. So they would have full control over its sales, maybe add old PlayStation games on it too, and make it an all-in-one PS platform. It's theoretically possible, but I wouldn't expect that. Steam is just too important, right? You even see Microsoft throw all their games on Steam now. It's hard for me to see that. It's hard for me to see them do an own launcher. Now, will one exist at some point? Like, as in, like, additionally, right? Because just like Microsoft, you can buy their games on Steam, or you can buy it through the Windows Store. I think almost no one buys their games through the Windows Store, but you can do it, right? So will Sony eventually maybe have their own launcher as an option, which maybe will offer trophies, right? Maybe that's one way they kind of pull people in, especially people double dipping that have it on console. Hey, you can earn a new platinum by playing through the game on PC. I wouldn't rule that out. Like, one day they do that, but like, will they ever go completely exclusive? You can only play their games on the PlayStation PC launcher. I think that's unlikely, because I'm going to just flat out say it. If you want to be truly successful on PC, you have to have Steam as an option. Just too many people are ingrained in the Steam ecosystem. We even see it with Microsoft games. There are plenty of Xbox games on PC that you can play for quote, quote, free, as in no additional charge in your subscription on Game Pass. And a lot of those people, even though that's an option, still buy the game on Steam because they just love Steam. They're part of that ecosystem. That's just the way it is. So I would think it would be a big mistake for Sony to go a PlayStation only launcher. Steam's got to be an option, but I wouldn't rule out that they will make an additional option. Hey, you get trophy support if you come through here with your PlayStation Network account. Maybe some stuff can transfer, like DLC. If you own it on PlayStation, if you use it through the launcher, you can get the DLC also on PC. That kind of stuff I could see. But abandoning Steam, I can't see it. Let me make sure that there's no super chats I have missed. I don't think so. Nope. So we're good on that. So I'm going to still keep rocking free questions. Thanks for a great turnout today, everyone. It's been a really good one. Benji here. Benji, Doke V seem to have impressed many people. Huge metrics, especially from a technical standpoint, including Digital Foundry. Yes, I saw that Digital Foundry said it was like, maybe their most impressive game of the show. Are Asian devs getting back on top from a graphic tech standpoint? Well, I would say that things in Asia are definitely heating up. Keep in mind, it's hard to remember now because really Japan and such has been like so on fire recently. You look at companies like Capcom, you look at companies like, Nintendo, you look at like Square Enix, even on their Japanese developed games. Their Western games are still struggling, but their Japanese developed Square Enix games are just on fire. You look at Final Fantasy Online, huge success. You look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, huge success. Bravely Default, that's Square Enix, right? That was a big success. So, like, the Japanese side of Square Enix is on fire. It's hard to forget that really, whenever the HD flip happened, right? When we went from like the older consoles to like the HD generation, a lot of developers in Asia, particularly Japan, really struggled with that transition. You saw a lot of those companies releasing games that sold mediocre. They were received, not that great. In fact, I can remember a time, and it's funny to look back and think of this now, but there was a time, there was like an actual discussion in the industry has Japan and, development in Asia, has it really fallen behind the West? Like, has the West really overtaken it and it's really all about the West now? And Japan's kind of like a more niche thing. But boy, have they stormed back. I mean, Capcom is one of the biggest publishers of 2021. When you look at the momentum of games like Resident Evil Village, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Stories 2, I mean, they literally are one of the biggest publishers of 2021. And Nintendo has just, as we all know, utterly dominated. So in terms of graphics specifically, I don't know that I would say that, development in Asia is the top, because, I mean, if you look at studios like Naughty Dog, if you look at studios like, Sony Santa Monica, I mean, you still have some other, look at Rockstar Games, what they pulled off with Red Dead Redemption 2. You have some unbelievable talent in the West as well. But I would definitely say that development in Asia, and especially expanding Asia, you look at, Korea, you look at China, it's definitely getting better. Like, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Japan has massively improved from the spot they were. And yes, Korea, South Korea and China are really accelerating and becoming bigger players in the market. So yeah, I would say that's good news. Yep. Sounds PP7, what do you make of Norman Reedus' comments about a potential Death Stranding sequel? I think it's going to happen, actually, which is somewhat surprising, but kind of not at the same time. And how interested do you think Sony and Kojima are in continuing with it? I think the director's cut looks great. So for anyone that missed this, Norman Reedus basically leaked Death Stranding 2. And I know some people have wondered, well, wait, was Norman referring to the director's cut? I don't think he was referring to the director's cut at all, because keep in mind the way he worded it. This was with IGN Brazil. He said that negotiations are currently happening for a sequel. There is no negotiations right now for director's cut. Those would have been done a very long time ago, in fact. Like, the game's about to come out. It comes out literally this month now. We're in September. And Norman's comments were from the end of August. Like, you would not be negotiating anything that close to launch. Any sort of negotiation or deals or anything like that with the director's cut, they were long over. So if they were, because his literal words were they are currently negotiating, that would have to be for something in the future. If you're negotiating a month before the director's cut comes out, it's for something else. So it's got to be Death Stranding 2. It literally has to be. And his comment even said, I think we're doing a sequel. I don't think Norman's that confused that he would confuse a director's cut with a true sequel of the game and also be negotiating that close. So it says to me, yeah, there are discussions for Death Stranding 2. On one hand, somewhat surprising, because Death Stranding, I think, wasn't a massive success. It wasn't like this colossal seller. But on the flip side, Death Stranding also, it did perform pretty decent. Death Stranding, we know for a fact, was profitable for Kojima. He flat out said the game made a profit, and that was quite a while ago, and it's continued to sell since then. So the game didn't lose money, first of all. We know that because Kojima himself said the game, it made money. So on one hand, okay, the game, maybe it wasn't a massive success, but you didn't lose money on it. Second of all, I think Kojima is still a big enough name that if you're Sony, you would still like to have Kojima making games for your console, right? So I think you kind of want to do that. And also, Death Stranding, we have evidence, has performed pretty well on PC. So maybe there was a question of, hey, do we really want to do Death Stranding 2, when it was just on console? But maybe they also saw pretty strong PC sales on top of that. And they're like, well, when you combine PC and you combine console, there's a pretty decent base here. We know it's getting a director's cut as well now, so if that performs good, I think that we're looking at a very real scenario that Death Stranding 2 could be a thing. I think it'll look a lot different than Death Stranding 1, to be honest with you. I think there's definitely some stuff they'll keep. Kojima, I think, really likes this idea of rebuilding the world. I don't think you'll lose that kind of stuff. I do think, though, that the gameplay and stuff will make some pretty radical changes. So if Death Stranding 2 does happen, which I'm right now leaning, I'd say it's probably like 70 or 80% likely. If they're far enough in negotiations, because keep this in mind too, actually, this is something I didn't really think about until just now. They're already in the negotiations to the point where they're negotiating with talent. they're not just negotiating with Kojima in terms of, will Kojima make another game? Norman Reedus is part of these negotiations, which means they're to the point that they're negotiating with talent as well, which makes me think, again, that these negotiations are a bit further along. So, yeah, I think so. I think it's gonna happen, to be honest with you. Hello there, Benji. If both Midnight Suns and Guardians fail, would that make Marvel reevaluate who they partner with to make Marvel games? If they fail, would that make devs/pubs be afraid to use the Marvel license? Meaning, would the failure of 3 AAA Marvel games back to back make developers afraid to use the Marvel license? Would the failure make Marvel extremely picky in regards to who they give the license to? These are great questions, Deadly 8. I want to make one thing really clear here. Something that I feel is a massive missed opportunity. I mean just an unbelievably massive missed opportunity. I am so utterly confused why there are not Spider-Man equivalent AAA narrative story-focused games on characters like Black Panther, Doctor Strange. I mean, I could go down the list. So many of these Marvel projects to me just are so random. Like, immediately going to Avengers after Spider-Man and making it a games as a service. I don't understand how that happens. And this isn't criticizing Marvel necessarily, because I think it also depends on devs and pubs, right? You have to get them on board as well. It could literally be that these companies are not pitching to Marvel because it's a cooperative thing. I'm not like sitting here criticizing Marvel. I'm saying it's literally a question to me. Where are these Spider-Man equivalent games for other characters? Now, are they all going to be as big as Spider-Man? No. Spider-Man is literally one of the biggest comic book heroes in the world. But do I think a literal AAA, all the bells and whistles, story-focused game on Black Panther, you know how big that would be? I can literally sit here and look in the camera and tell you it would sell millions of copies, and there's not a single doubt in my mind. There's not a question in my mind it would happen. Not a doubt. And no, I'm not talking about an Avengers War for Wakanda expansion. I'm talking a true, massive, single-player game. It would sell millions of copies. I think a Doctor Strange game would sell millions of copies because I think the game would be fun. I think the combat, I think you could do so many useful and interesting things. And none of these games are getting made. They're like Midnight Suns, which is, I think, cool looking. I'm interested in it, but it's like this, tactical RPG type thing. There was Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which, again, cool, but it's like a beat 'em up, and it's like, again, just a bunch of characters, not a giant budget. You're getting, Avengers, which was this random games as a service game. I don't understand where these games are and why they're not being made. After Spider-Man, if I'm if I was Square Enix who cut this deal with Marvel, I'd be saying I want to make a big, giant, Black Panther game. I want to make a big, giant Doctor Strange game. Guardians is that potential, right? That's the closest one we've had to Spider-Man since then. So Guardians will tell us a lot. Hopefully the quality's there. Guardians is a game I'm just on the fence on. But this is the closest. Guardians is the closest thing since Spider-Man launched that we've had for a big, single-player focused, Marvel game. So that will tell us a lot. If it fails Deadly 8, that to me would be pretty alarming. Yeah. If I was a publisher, again, I would be pretty alarmed. Midnight Suns, I have no idea how that's going to perform. I hope it's good, but I don't think it has as strong of a sales potential as Spider-Man did. So Guardians will tell us a lot. Guardians is going to tell us a lot. And in regards to the question, like, will people be afraid to use the license? I think you do what I mean. Do you guys agree? I think that those kinds of games would be big. Like, I think those kinds of games would be the big ones. So if I was Marvel, I would be a little more picky. If they don't work out, if these two games don't work out, I'd be very picky. And I would also basically just want pitches for that. Like, I would be like, listen, if you want to make the next giant Iron Man game, if you want to make the next giant Black Panther game, then we will do this license. But otherwise, and I know mobile, they're having massive success. Like, Marvel on mobile is killing it. This is more like the console AAA games, but Guardians will tell us a lot. Guardians will tell us a lot. I think we just had a super chat drop. Oh, I just saw Pio in chat. What is up? Sony hype. 5 super chat here from the end. Frostbite Slash. I've always wanted Remedy to make a Doctor Strange AAA game. Me as well, Frostbite. Me as well. They would absolutely kill it. That style game is part of their blood. Fun thing I can flip off or like spin off here for you, Frostbite. So I actually tweeted about this too one time. And one of the main effects workers at Remedy commented on my tweet. Like he got on my tweet and he commented because I tweeted this a while back. I was like, someone had asked like, what's your dream Marvel collaboration or something like that. And I said the same. I mean, it seems like a match made in heaven, right? After playing Control, Remedy, Doctor Strange, that is a home run in the making. So I tweeted that out. I was like, I would love to see Remedy make a Doctor Strange game. And the VFX lead at Remedy commented on it. And he was like, that is really fun that you said that, because they said one of the inspirations for Control's art design and like the way it, like the effects worked, was the Doctor Strange movie. Like they actually took inspiration from that. So it's a match made in heaven. It's a perfect match. And clearly Remedy kind of thinks so too. Will we ever see that game? I don't think so, or at least not for years, because Remedy's so busy right now. Like Remedy's in a good spot. I mean, if you're Remedy, you've got you're working on that FPS game. What is the name of it? Holy cow! I cannot believe I'm blanking on this. Crossfire X. They've got an FPS contract that they're working on. They've got Control 2, which is like signed, deal, done. Bigger budget even than the first Control. They got that Control multiplayer game. They've got 2 projects with Epic, which are heavily rumored to be Alan Wake 2. And, I mean, if you're Remedy, you're good. You're good. You have so much in your pipeline. So I would love to see that game, but it seems doubtful, Frostbite. I don't think we're going to see it, or if not for years. But that would be perfect. And yeah, Remedy took inspiration from the Doctor Strange movie for their VFX for Control. Holy cow, so many questions today, everyone. Thank you so much. A great turnout to chat today. I'm going to be going still for another about 20 minutes. So I'm going to hit as many questions as I can over the next 20 minutes. Thanks for a great stream, everyone. I'll go ahead and say this now. I don't spam it out, but make sure you like the video if you haven't already. It helps the YouTube algorithm. All you got to do is just click like, and it helps people find my channel. Also, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm so close to 3,000 subscribers. I've almost given up hope it'll ever happen, because I think I've been stuck right below 3,000 subs for half a year now. Like, it's been a long time. I think it has been like half a year. And so I've kind of given up on the 3,000 subscriber dream. But if you're not subbed and you're here, you know, if you want to push me over that 3,000 subs, I'd appreciate it. Psycho Mantis is asking, can we expect factions? I think so. I think it is very likely factions is here. Very likely, actually. Very likely. That game's been in development for a long time. So, yeah, I expect factions, and I expect a 2022 release. I don't know that they will actually give it a flat-out date. Like, I don't know that you'll get, you know, August, whatever, 2022. I wouldn't be surprised if you see factions and then to put that 2022 logo on screen. Would not surprise me at all. Not at all. The Truth Teller. Oh, asking about the Forbidden West upgrade. We did talk about that. Miles Morales, when do you think Spider-Man 2 will be announced? Very slim, and when I say very slim chance you get a teaser announcement here at this showcase, but more than likely they announced it last year. Logan Hardy saying, Benji boy, it will suck not having a reaction on the showcase. I know. I wish I could. I wish I could react to it. One day the dream is that I won't work retail. I will somehow work in the industry, and maybe then it will be easier to schedule, you know, reactions and things like this. But Sony give you, this is one thing I hate about what Sony does with this, is they give you such short notice. It's so hard to plan around. They do this a lot. They do this with state of plays and stuff, and it's like they tell you a week before the show. So it's like you have no time to like prepare. And like if you're a content creator, I can tell you it's tough. You know, if you're someone who does this full time, you know, whatever, you do it full time, so it's not a big deal. But if you're somebody that has another job, giving, you know, the content creator community a week's notice, I mean, it's so short. You have like no time to schedule things or anything like that. So it's a bummer. Game Pass Davey, do you think making expensive collector editions for Horizon Forbidden West are going to seriously hurt sales of the other editions, as fans might feel jaded? No. Collector's editions are just there for your most like hardcore fans, right? They're always made in very limited supply. The only one that really wasn't was that Halo 3 cat helmet one. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be a very small chunk of total sales are going to be those collector's editions. Those are just there for the most hardcore fans. So that kind of thing is kind of whatever. It's they probably made maybe 100,000 of those, you know, maybe at max. I mean, maybe it's a little bit more. You never know. Maybe they made more than that, but I'd be surprised if it's more than like a few 100,000 at most. Craig Stewart, when in 2022 would you guess Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad will drop? Well, Suicide Squad, I think, has a slim chance of being delayed to 2023 because we've seen almost nothing on that game other than that teaser. So I would not rule out Suicide Squad getting pushed to 2023. Gotham Knights, I think, will be somewhat early 2022. Now, does that mean it's going to be March or something? I don't know about that. I think it'll be out by summer. Keep in mind, that game was supposed to launch this year. So I think, you know, worst case scenario, that game comes out summer of next year, and it could come out sooner than that. So I don't think you'll have to wait too deep into next year. Here's the good news, Craig Stewart. You won't have to wait long to find out. Both those games are confirmed to appear at DC Fandom, which is coming up. So you will have finally new news on Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad very soon. But yeah, that's my prediction. Gotham Knights pretty early in the year, summer at the latest. And Suicide Squad, if it does make it next year, I think it'll be late next year. And definitely a chance that could get delayed to 2023. I think we just had a super chat drop. Let me hit that super chat. Pio says, Benji, you are awesome. You are awesome, Pio. Thanks for still being in chat, buddy. Hey, your Sony hype made me hyped. I meant to comment on your video that you posted because I was scrolling through and I see you getting hyped out of your mind. Sony, Sony, Sony. I'm like, yes, yes. This is the energy I need right now. You're the man, Pio. All right, Benji here with a 5 super chat. What is going on with you, Ubi? So previews for Far Cry 6, Assassin's Creed franchise future, Skull and Bones postponed, mixed reception for X Defiant, and Extractions. Yeah, Ubisoft is in a weird place. I would have told you literally at the like halfway point of last gen, I would have told you Ubisoft was one of the smartest, best run, best moving companies in the entire business. You looked at them at the mid of last gen, and even if you didn't like them, they had massive successes in the Division, massive successes in Watch Dogs. Assassin's Creed, you know, that was the one that was a little struggling until you saw Odyssey and Origins. You saw Rainbow Six Siege be just gigantic. Like, again, whether you hated their games or not, Ubisoft was one of those companies that last gen seemed like they were just going from success to success to success. Like, literally, it was literally like they almost couldn't miss. Far Cry 5 was gigantic. Far Cry 4 before that was gigantic. Like, their games were just on fire. And boy, does it feel like a company that has lost direction. And I'm one of those, you guys know me, I'm someone that likes to be super positive. I'm somebody that likes to be optimistic. I'm not one of those guys that spends a lot of time being negative, saying things are going to be bad, blah, 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 blah. And I know there's still a ton of talent still in Ubisoft. They feel very directionless right now to me. Things just seem to be like sporadically happening almost. It almost feels like they're just throwing darts at the wall in terms of like some of the strategy, like in terms of X-Defiant and free-to-play games. And, you know, it just feels like a company that doesn't have a strong sense of direction. Now, does that mean that they're going to completely fail? I'm not saying that. Some of these games could be huge. You never know. Maybe X-Defiant is gigantic. Maybe, you know, maybe Far Cry is huge. Maybe, you know, etc. I'm not saying that they're a doomed company, but I'm saying, like, when I look at Ubisoft, I don't exactly understand what their like foundational strategy for the future is. And that to me is like weird. It's very weird. I don't know how things are going to shake out for them, Benji. You know, literally Ubisoft and EA are the polar opposites to me. I was someone last gen that hardcore criticized EA. I thought outside of their sports franchises, which really saved them, they were a company last gen as a whole. At the very end, they started to improve. But you look at the generation as a whole, EA was just all over the place. BioWare games were, you know, not performing how they should. They weren't getting the fan reception that they should. You looked at, they had very few of their legacy IPs, the ones that people loved. You know, they weren't making new entries in those. Like, their non-sports games felt like they were not in a good spot. You fast forward to now, and you look at that upcoming EA pipeline, and I'm not saying EA is above criticism, but you look at that pipeline and you're like, dang, there is some like exciting stuff there. The Dead Space remake sounds exciting. I thought that stream they had was great. I really am excited about the future direction of the next Mass Effect being like a true sequel to the original trilogy. You look at how well Mass Effect, you know, the remaster did and how well received it was by fans. You look at a new Skate coming. You look at how big, you know, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was and the sequel to that. Like, EA feels like, wow, EA is like coming on strong. And then you look at Ubisoft and they feel the opposite. It's so crazy to me because it felt the exact opposite last gen. Like, EA was a company that was like floundering, and I know they weren't financially. I'm just strictly talking about games here. And Ubisoft felt like they were just soaring. And now I feel the opposite. I don't know. I don't know with Ubisoft. We're going to have to see how some of these games perform. I would say I'm worried about them, though. Yeah, I'm worried about them. All right. Thank you for that super chat. Thank you for the super chats, everybody. Got time to hit about 15 more minutes of questions, and then we're done. Oh, yeah, Pio said, what about Monster Hunter? Yeah, I think Monster Hunter for Game of the Year. Monster Hunter Rise is a contender, yep. It could be in there. It could be in there. It got high reviews. I wouldn't write it off. Monster Hunter Rise definitely could get nominated. Whoa, does anyone know if this is true? Homishly Ford, apparently Horizon Forbidden West photo mode is behind a paylock, the deluxe edition. I can't believe that. That has to be like just something was worded weird. There's no way, right? Hamish, I'm going to guess that that was something that was just not communicated great, and that maybe there's like additional filters and stuff you get through the deluxe edition. But the whole photo mode being behind a paywall, no way, right? That's way too extreme. There's no way. I refuse to believe that. If that's true, that is crazy. But I'm thinking it must just be like filters or something. Danger Man saying, I think if Forza Horizon 5 smashes, it'll be Game of the Year. I think it absolutely deserves a nomination if it's anywhere near as good as 3 and 4 were. I mean, literally, I said this, I think, on the last chat. Forza Horizon is personally my favorite racing franchise of all time. If 5 is anywhere near as good as 3 and 4 were, it absolutely deserves a nomination. However, I will say, and I hate to say this, I think it's really unlikely that the media will nominate a racing game. I think it's really unlikely. And that pains me to say, because I think it deserves the nomination. Again, this is assuming quality. If it's worse than 3 and 4, it doesn't deserve it. But if it's as good as those two games were, I mean, both those are 90 plus Metacritic, I absolutely think it deserves it. But again, the media votes on this. It's so hard for me to actually think that the media would nominate a racing game as Game of the Year. If it's that good, it should be, but I don't think the media will do it. And yeah, Gravy Biscuits, no chance a racing game wins game. Yeah, the media won't do it. They're not going to do it. But it deserves it. Danger Man, Benji's having internet issues. Usual feature of this stream. Yeah, it's usual. But I think it's held up better than normal today. Better than normal, I would say. Ahmed Saeed, waiting for the Hassan appearance at the event. How funny would that be? I don't think he will be, though. That would be hilarious, though. Can you imagine him coming out? Tony Yayo, can you get Jason Schreier on for inside info? Tony, I have not talked to Jason in some time. I have talked to Jason before. I think me and Jason have a good relationship. I think. I mean, he definitely knows who I am. We have talked before, but again, I haven't talked to Jason in quite some time. I can't even remember the last time I talked to Jason Schreier. So I haven't gotten to the point where I have people on with me. At some point, I'm going to. I've talked about at some point there will be a podcast on this YouTube channel, and it will be industry guests. But I don't know, Tony Yayo, when that will happen. I have no idea. I'm so starved for time right now. It's like ridiculous. So again, I hope at some point. Would Jason agree to come on my show if I had one? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't talked to Schreier in quite some time, so I don't know how he currently feels about me. If he likes me, then I think I could get him on, but I don't know. You know, that's one weird thing in the industry. I'll just show you a little glass door behind the scenes thing. It can be hard sometimes to know how people really feel about you. You know, it can be a little tough. It can be a little tough to read people online, you know, whenever you don't know them personally in your real life. So, there have been people that I thought I had a better relationship than I do. And then there's been the opposite. People that I thought didn't like me and actually do. So I don't know. I could not tell you if Jason Schreier currently likes me or not. But I would, if I had a podcast going, I would love to have Jason on. I would love to pick Jason's brain. But Tony, no promises. I haven't talked to Jason in a long time. It's probably been over a year since I talked to Jason last. Except for on Twitter, you know, little tweets and stuff, but not like actually talk to him. Danger Man says Spider-Man 2 teaser for spring 2023 sounds about right. Yeah, not impossible. It could happen. It could happen. Brad Myers, what do you think will be shown at Tokyo Game Show? I hope it's exciting, but I'm not expecting much. You know, I hate to say that, but Tokyo Game Show in recent years hasn't exactly been like this massively impressive showcase where you get just tons of breaking and amazing news out of. It used to be a huge deal, right? Like Tokyo Game Show used to be a very big deal in the industry. Nowadays, it feels a lot more tepid in terms of announcements and big reveals. Brad, I hate to say this, I'm not expecting much. I hope we get some cool news, but I'm not going into Tokyo Game Show expecting like huge reveals. Maybe you'll get like one or two cool new pieces of info. I And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a blowout. It's just constant wall-to-wall, crazy, awesome new games from Japan being announced. I'm just saying my expectations are pretty low, Brad. I'm not expecting anything too crazy. I think Square Enix even already confirmed no Final Fantasy 16. So, like, I'm not expecting much. I think we just had a super chat. Okay, here we go. I scrolled down and people are saying Frostbite, not true. It's only extra photo mode stickers, paints. Yeah, not true. Only unlocks. Cool. Yeah. That kind of thing I can understand being in a deluxe edition. This is in regards to Horizon, the photo mode. Photo mode's not locked, right? Anyone can have it. You just get extra stuff for the photo mode in the deluxe edition. I think that's okay. It's not a big deal. It's just a photo mode. It's some cool extra stickers and stuff. I don't find that to be bad or anti-consumer or anything like that. Highlander with a 10 super chat. My friends came over to see me, caught me playing Paw Patrol with my 9-year-old daughter. They were teasing me till she had them play with her. Amazing what a 9-year-old girl can do. Hey, that is awesome, Highlander. Thanks for the 10 super chat. That's incredibly kind. My daughter just started getting into Paw Patrol, so I can relate, Highlander. My daughter's 3. And she just started getting into Paw Patrol. So I'm with you, Highlander. I understand completely, all right? I'm a daughter dad as well. And let me tell you, Highlander, I don't know how it is for you, but basically she runs the place. Even at 3 years old. So, hey, first of all, shout out to you, Highlander, for playing games with your daughter. That is freaking awesome. And, yeah, I can relate. I can definitely relate to the Paw Patrol stuff. And that's great. You're forming great memories with your daughter. So that's awesome, dude. That's seriously awesome. Pio, Hassan being in the event would make it 10 out of 10. He says nothing. Can you imagine? Hassan just walks out, doesn't even say anything. Okay, all right. I got to just pick a few questions and bounce. All right? I'm going to go for 5 more minutes. 5 minutes and I'm out. 5 minutes and I'm out. Thank you for all the super chats today. Thank you for the great turnout today. Thank you for the awesome freaking chat today. Thanks for being great. Y'all know I love you guys. All right. Just a couple questions, and I gotta bounce. Ahmed, Benji, is your Sacred Symbols Plus appearance happening? Yes. And it will be not too long of a wait. That's all I can say. But Ahmed, yes, I will be on Sacred Symbols Plus. So get hyped. It's going to happen. It's like 99% now that it's going to happen. I will make that Sacred Symbols Plus appearance, and I don't think you're going to have to wait too long, but that's all I'm going to say. Not going to say anything else besides that. It is not my place to announce anything else on that. I will leave that to them. I'm excited. That'll be really fun. And I know a lot of people are excited about it. Whenever Colin said to get me on the show, I got a lot of people excited for me to do that. So, yep, it's coming. Benji, do you think Sony is still trying to secure big third-party exclusives? What do you think they will go for? Yes, I do think they're still trying to. I think everyone's trying to. I think Microsoft's trying to lock those in. Sony's trying to lock those in. What are they going to go for? I think there was a rumor that the new BioShock might be PlayStation exclusive. I don't know that, y'all. Don't run with that. That's not me spreading a rumor. I mean, that's something I saw online. I think there was a rumor about BioShock. I could actually see something like that. Yeah, you're going to see them go for some. What they're going to be, I don't know. Definitely some stuff from Japan, without a doubt. We see that with Square Enix already, right? They already got Forspoken. They already got Final Fantasy 16. I think they're definitely going to go for some Japan stuff. Something like BioShock I could see, etc. Like 2 more questions. Edwin Rivera, just subscribed. I really have only seen you on Twitter, so it's cool to find you here. Well, thank you, Edwin. Yeah, my Twitter account is way bigger than my YouTube. Almost 10 times bigger. It's almost 10 times bigger on my Twitter. You know, I'm like the opposite of most people. I have found through other content creators and like people's podcasts and stuff I've gone on, you know, while they might have a big Twitter following, a lot of them, their YouTube is way bigger than their Twitter. I'm like the exact opposite. My Twitter's literally almost 10 times the size of my YouTube. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I only stream once a week. I don't make like pre-made videos. I'm not constantly pumping out new content. That kind of thing will slow your growth, right? I'm not sitting there doing like a new 10-minute news update every single day or, you know, a podcast. I just do like this beefy hour to an hour and a half interactive stream every week. And, but I love doing this live chat. And it seems like with so many familiar faces I see every week, I think a lot of you guys like doing this chat too. So at some point, do I want to do more stuff on the channel? Yeah. And I'd like to do a podcast and stuff. But like, this is the best way for me to interact with people and talk with people and like just talk about games. Like, I love this chat. So even if it slows my YouTube growth and, you know, this is just the main thing that we do every week, to me, that's okay. Like, you know, it's okay. I'm not in this to like be Mr. Famous YouTuber, you know. I just love doing the chat. All right. I got to just get like one or two and leave. Is there really two more questions? Lots of comments and discussion, which I love seeing. I'm just trying to see if there's any questions left. Oh, right at the end, we got Big Fresh 37 with a 2 super chat. Cut clips out of the show and post them on Twitter. Yeah, Big Fresh, I should. I did that like for like 2 chats and people did like it. It's just a time thing. Again, I hate to say it. I'm like so freaking busy. Like, whether it's, you know, my daughter, whether it's I have a full 40-hour week regular day job, plus I do still try to play games, you know, as much as possible to cover them. You know, there's a lot of stuff I could do to grow my stuff better. But yes, Big Fresh cutting clips out and putting them on Twitter is smart. Like I said, I think I did that for like 1 or 2 chats. I just did like a couple of the big questions and then threw them up on Twitter and people really liked that. There's definitely stuff I know I could do to grow my channel and my presence more. But it's just a time thing. But I need to do better about it. 100% Big Fresh. 100%. 100%. Deadly 8, hope you answered. Okay, let's do Deadly 8, and then we might be done. Let's see. So you don't think publishers / developers will be afraid to use the Marvel license, right? Well, Deadly 8, like I was saying, it just depends. I think if both Midnight Suns and Guardians fail, and that's a big if, we don't know, right? Let's not assume anything. But like we're playing a hypothetical scenario, Deadly 8. If those 2 games failed, I think publishers would start to get a little concerned because I think you would see more Marvel misses than hits recently. But my personal belief, Deadly 8, and this is just a personal belief, I think it would have more to do with the strategies behind those games than the actual IP itself. Get what I'm saying? So would some publishers be afraid? Yes, I do think so. I think you would get some being cautious that would say, hey, the movies are like a guaranteed home run, but it's not a guaranteed home run in games. I do think you would see that. But my perspective, Deadly 8, is more that the misses, the games that didn't perform, there's a real reason behind it. And I think what people want are those Spider-Man type experiences from Marvel games. That's what I think they want. I think they love these characters. Like, the movies are so big because people love the characters. Don't get me wrong, the action's great. Don't get me wrong, the CG's great. Don't get me wrong, all that stuff's great. But people love the MCU because they love Captain America. They love Tony Stark. They love Loki. They love, Black Widow and Scarlet Witch. And I could go down the list. People have grown to love these characters. And they want I think the games to be truly successful, it needs to really be about these characters and telling a story. That's why the comics are so big, right? Because people love the comics. That's why the comics have endured for all these years. People have grown to love these characters. And so many of these games are not that story focused and are making some weird decisions, I think, in terms of strategy and gameplay. I think they could have had more successes if we saw more games in the vein of Spider-Man. So I don't think it's necessarily an IP issue. It's more just the games that are being made. But that's just my own personal opinion, and I could be wrong. Could be wrong. All right, everyone, I got to call the chat there. Thanks for an amazing chat. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already so we can finally get over 3,000 subscribers. Follow me on Twitter if you don't. I'm more than likely, if you're here, you follow me on Twitter. But I'm Benji-Sales, of course, on Twitter. Stay safe, everyone. Play some games. I'm going to bounce. I'll try to get off next week. I think it's unlikely, but I'll do my best. And yeah, I'll see you all either next week here on YouTube, because we'll definitely be back for a live chat next week, or I'll see you sooner than that on Twitter. Bye, everybody. Have an amazing day, an amazing night, and I will see you all soon. Peace. Bye.